Hello, welcome to the SCOUTCAST. My name is Joe.
My name is Seb.
My name is Karam.
Welcome everyone. It's been a hectic day, and it got a bit more hectic at about 5:30 because we had a big announcement, but more of that a little later. Seb, what's coming up in the show?
Well, as you mentioned, we're going to have a little look at this announcement, aren't we? But we do have some other things to talk about as well. We'd like to look at captains and popular captains blanking, which seems to be a theme. Let's have a look at that, see if we can't get a little better at it. Karam, of course. I mean, you've been done by the Premier League here now. You spotted it first, and now they've gone and announced it before we could give you the praise you're due. But Karam spotted this double possibly happening first with some detective work.
Yes.
And of course, we will look at our chip strategies, our transfers, both of which have probably changed now. Karam has a turn picking a differential. And of course, we will look forward to what we're going to do just in isolation this week with captains. And we've got one eye on Chelsea and Spurs.
Yes, indeed. We'll be looking at Son. We were discussing a bit on air. I both want Son to do really well and to do not really well. I don't have him in FPL. I'm all out. But I do have him as my captain in Sky. So I hope he does well and not. I'm not sure.
What would you take? What would be an acceptable middle ground?
I don't know.
55 points.
I actually want him to do really well because he's my captain in Sky. So I don't want him to mess around with a goal. I want him to get like a hat trick or do nothing. I don't want any of this pansy goal business. I want full on great goals. But anyway, here's my team. So far, well, I say so far, I'm all out now. I've got 84 points. I'm pretty happy with this. Massive captain fell though, which is what we'll talk about a bit later. So I benched Soucek again for my second time this season, but
Unbelievable.
I don't mind this time around because Salah was my only attacking player who blanked, and I wasn't going to bench Salah, who was my captain. So I had Edison, Justin with 15 points, thank you. Stones with 6, Dallas who blanked. Grealish, who was new in, so I got Grealish in, and very pleased. I got him in for Mane, who didn't play, and I just wanted to. I mean, it's a bit template, but boring. We talked about it last time, but it was a sensible move, and why not do the sensible move? And he got me points. Fernandez 17, Salah blank captain, Gundogan points, Bamford points, Calvert-Lewin points, Antonio points, and on my bench. Soucek was my only scorer, Mitchell and Kufal and Jed Steer there. So yeah, I'm pretty happy there, and see what happens with Son goes. And I've got a reasonable green arrow of about 150k at the moment, but if Son does really well, it will go back down again, and I may incredibly. I put up on Twitter that I might get a red arrow, and that wasn't one of those, oh, have I got 84? Is that any good? Humble brag kind of thing. It was a genuine thing of like, oh my God, if Son does well, because the average is so high, I could actually end up with a red arrow here. So see what happens, see what transpires.
Yeah, I was pretty happy with mine. Other than the captain, I was pretty happy with mine, and I got a pretty solid red arrow.
Well, you got I'll just put your team up then. 70 points, and you got a red arrow.
Yeah.
What kind of world do we live in?
But clearly I need about 14 or 15 points from him to reverse that red arrow.
I'm not having that. I'm going to storm round to FPL Towers and demand you get your green arrow. You got Martinez in goal, Robertson, Cancelo and Stones, Salah captaincy, Fernandez, Son still to go, Gundogan, Watkins, Antonio and Calvert-Lewin. On your bench you got Saka, Dyer, Kilman, Sanchez from Brighton, and we'll talk a bit about Brighton a bit later. Yeah. And I mentioned Lewis Dunk last week. I was talking about differentials and unfashionable picks. Mentioned Lewis Dunk, mentioned Brighton's track record. I got a bit of a slating in some of the comments that I was just making up random names and just putting names out there. But yeah, and I think perhaps Sanchez might be in your starting 11 next time. Maybe.
Yeah, he probably will be. Sanchez was, I think, when I was first on here with you ages ago with Az, I think that was the week I brought Sanchez in for Guaita ages ago. I remember talking about Brighton's defensive stats are better than their performances. Ryan's looked a problem, so I'll bring Sanchez in. Now, I'm not claiming some sort of genius there, because then what I did is bring Martinez in, play him, and not get any of Sanchez's points. but there was something there, Maybe I should have just stuck with it a little bit longer.
It was.
How do you feel about it? Like, would you rather not having him than seeing the points every week on the bench?
I'd always rather have the player. Like, of course, when they're on the bench, you feel like, oh, I should have played him, but I'd rather have him than I had the option of playing him, or I get price rises, whatever.
But people are starting to look a little differently at the Brighton defence now. We've been talking about those underlying stats for quite some time, but now that's come to fruition, which is nice. Because underlying stats means it's what we use as a predictor of future returns, and that seems to be transpiring there. Karam, your team 68 points. You're going to tell me you've got a red arrow now?
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, quite a big red arrow.
So I'll just for the benefit of our podcast listeners, just before you talk about your team, you've got Martinez in goal, Cancelo, Diaz, Stones, not bad, 18 points from your blanket City defence. Son still to play, Barnes, Salah captain, Fernandes, Calvert-Lewin, Antonio, and Bamford, and Soucek on the bench, and that was your only bench points really. So yeah, you must be pretty happy with that.
Yeah. Well, in any other week, this score would be decent and would be enough for a green arrow, but with this and with a 7 transfer, I managed to get 100k red arrow, and I think Son needs to do a lot given his ownership to give me any chance of turning this into a green arrow. A similar problem with you, Joe. Soucek had to be benched because there was no other option. Barnes is the annoying one. I think he's one of the most frustrating pick I've had this season and last season. So annoying. But he was playing Fulham, and there was no chance I would bench him for Soucek. The rest have delivered, and Salah was the obvious pick. But now 7 blanks in 8 game weeks, which is shocking if you look at this back. The most annoying part is not really Soucek points, is the Wan-Bissaka's points that I gave up to Cancelo. So a week ago, not directly this game week, I had Wan-Bissaka 1 point against Sheffield United when Cancelo managed to get his 17.
Yeah.
And I did the swap, and since then Cancelo did not play, plus 6 points, and Wan-Bissaka managed 8 against Arsenal and 17. So if I did the swap right, I'll be 45 points gaining. If I had done nothing in that spot, I'll be getting one of the 2 holes. But what happened is obviously I didn't get any of this.
It's one of the most frustrating parts of this game is doing something active, research, doing that move, and then it actually costing you and costing a lot. And it's so frustrating. It's so frustrating.
You always remember a loss more keenly than you do a win, though. So I'd imagine playing like that will fall in your favour more often than it won't. And if I were to ask you now, going forward, who would you rather have, Cancelo or Wan-Bissaka?
I would definitely have Cancelo.
It's just some bad timing,
Last time out, we had that Ashley who wildcarded into 12 points, but his team was great. But that's the way it is. I've just moved on. I've got, because the game week's still going on, we've not really got a rough with the smooth section, but I do have to put this guy's team on, called Andrew Hudson. He is in Mike the Knight, who's in the Twitter FPL Communities League. So having a look at his team here. So he's got Fabianski, Cancelo, Konsa, Stones, Fernandes captained, well done, Mane, Pogba, Grealish, Maddison, well done there, 11 points, Watkins and Bamford. Now he's on 77 points here, but you can see Mane and Pogba didn't play. And who's that on his bench? Why, it's Antonio and Justin. So he's 23 points off the bench here. What I like about this is it's just gonna take him up to 100 points. So in a single game week, 100 points. That's an amazing return. If you get 100 points in a single game week, that's really good, really, really good. Even a high-scoring game week like this. So, well done there, Andrew. And apparently, according to Mike, who wasn't... I don't know whether he was pleased for him, but he says that Andrew's now going to be top of their league. So, well done.
I know what I think about this. Do you think that probably sounded worse than it was meant to? I think positively about it. Do you think benching some players who score highly and then them coming off your bench to replace someone who you elected to have over them is lucky or skillful?
It's, in this case, is lucky because why was Pogba benched not playing? No one suspected that. And Man United did indeed put Southampton to the sword. So that could have been a big haul there. With the players like Justin, there's always that risk. Antonio, Mane was a risk, but then if he had played, on paper it was Brighton. But I guess in this case, with injuries like this, it's definitely, and it's luck. I'm not sure. I mean, he's skillful having a good bench, but it's luck in this case. Pogba's
I think it's more skill than luck. There's a little Justin coming in for Pogba maybe is fortunate. You couldn't have called it, but it's a squad game. He's got Justin. That's why he has him, right, to get points. Antonio and Mane, I'm guessing I would have started Antonio. I did, but I don't have Mane. I'm guessing. Okay, he's put the vice on Mane, so maybe not. But I'm guessing he was maybe aware Mane might not play. But if he did, he backed him. He didn't have Salah. He thought if he doesn't play, I've deliberately put Antonio first, who has a good fixture and has scored in points. That one is just half decent planning, right?
I actually think with this team, looking at that and the way Mane vice captain, I think he just hasn't done his team. I think he set his team up for the previous week. He's done that, and he's just gone. I don't know. Watching telly. I would
always rather assume the better.
I'm not sure what to make of this actually, because if I know the information that Mane is very likely out, I would have taken him out.
Yeah.
And probably got Salah.
I had Mane and I took him out. It was just looking so doubtful.
Yeah. So it was almost certain he won't play. So yeah, maybe some skill. We don't know. Okay. I don't know.
Okay, well, let's move on to the main attraction, which is the big announcement today. And we always love it when there's a double game week announcement. So I'm going to put up the picture here. And Seb, you take us through what's been revealed and what are we going to do about it?
No problem. So we've had a double game week, or 2 double game weeks, I guess, shouted out today, confirmed. The teams involved are in game week 24. Man City, Everton, Burnley and Fulham will all play twice. You'll probably have the fixtures on screen there.
Yes, I've just put those up,
Joe. Yeah. No worries. I'll run through them quickly though. So we've got Man City playing Spurs and Everton. We have Everton playing Fulham and City. Burnley playing Palace and Fulham playing Everton and Burnley. But that's not it. In 25, we have another double, which is Leeds and Southampton. They obviously play each other. And Leeds also play Wolves and Southampton play Chelsea. So I'm guessing that probably changes quite a lot of our chip strategies. And we have a few questions on this subject. So Licious Lizard, what a name. What are the best chip strategies? Yeah, changed it by default. What are the best chip strategies and could the bench boost be used in double game week 24 or 25, for example? I'm guessing most are aiming for 26 there, right? Lord, which is another great name, very deferential. The normal strategy of setting up the bench boost with a wildcard in 25-26, so that would be wildcarding 25 for 26, might not be necessary. Will there be further opportunities to cash in down the line? Magic Zico, what is the best strategy for tapping into the great fixtures of single game week sides as well as those with a double? And the units, a group of Twitter followers there, clearly. I have all my chips available. What is the best strategy to use them? All the chips at this point is pretty impressive.
God, yeah.
So I guess the best way to tackle this, Joe, do you reckon? Because we've had, it's about an hour and a half ago or something before we started this. Yeah. I saw it just before we started. Really, I was working out, so I've not really thought about it much.
No.
But I know that I'm probably going to wildcard almost immediately now. I'm going to wildcard in 24, I think. And I have 2 free transfers in 23, so I might just take 2 free transfers for whatever, 1 game week, and then start looking to set up a team that. And I haven't planned this. I know, Karam, you think it might not be entirely possible, but a team that obviously has 26 in mind. But if I can hit 24, 25 and good fixtures in between that, free hit 29, I reckon I can make up some real decent ground.
Do you think that strategy relies on the free hit in game week 29 so you don't have to worry about it? But so, for example, someone like myself and others listening and watching who don't have a free hit left, but they've got the wild card still and they perhaps got a bench boost or triple captain. Are you adopting that strategy because you got that free hit? And if you didn't have that free hit, would you look for something different? I
guess my answer is probably a bit biased because I have the free hit in 29, I've not had to think about it too much because I have that safety net. So I've always been focusing on, let's get my points in 26 because I didn't wildcard before, and knowing I have 29 in the pocket with a free hit. So I haven't really given that much more thought. There might be a better way to do it.
Yeah, so for example, with me, I don't have those watching and listening in a similar situation to me without the free hit. I do have to think about Game Week 29. I can't ignore it. One of the issues with Game Week 26 is there is a strong likelihood that, because obviously for 29 is going to involve some blanks, and the assumption is that some of them are going to move to Game Week 26. So what ideally I would be looking at for Game Week 26 is players that are both doubling there and playing in Game Week 29. I don't know who those players are yet. I don't know the teams involved. The general talk around Twitter at the moment is the likely double game weeks in 26 could be Arsenal could have a couple of games. West Brom we could be looking at here. Interestingly, Leeds and Southampton, but then there's the likes of Villa as well, and of course all sorts of teams could have them, so we don't know. But what we do know is 24 and 25, and I do like to deal in certainties, and I feel a bit uncertain about 26 at the moment to wildcard now, but it hasn't changed probably from what I'm thinking. Wildcarding in 25, especially if Leeds and Southampton also have doubles in 26. So then they can form a sort of a basis of a good bench boost.
Did you say Leeds double in 26? I believe they're the only one that wouldn't double in 26.
Oh, is that the only one that wouldn't? Sorry, I meant Southampton, and I was actually thinking of Burnley. So Game Week 24, I would use my transfers now to target Burnley, and then so I've got Man City at the moment. I've got a bit of Everton. I would look to get possibly a bit more Everton, definitely some Burnley defence somewhere in there, and then carry that, and then presumably if there's price rises, for example, for the likes of Ben Mee or Nick Pope, carry that forward into Game Week 26. As I said, the fact I'm like kind of, I'm not sure, is just, we only knew about this an hour ago, so we're just trying to wrap our heads around it. But obviously the FA Cup has got a lot to do with it as well, Seb, and you've been, is there I mean, I've got a picture of the FA Cup fixtures that you posted up, and so these are the fixtures taking place that are coming up. So how will this influence perhaps what we do for 25, 26?
So I believe they take place in the midweek, meaning we will know during 24 who has won and lost those ties, and thus who will have the double game weeks that we're waiting for. We believe those will be 26, maybe some in 27. But as we've seen with this week, I don't think anyone saw a double in 25 coming.
No.
So there's that little outside chance that something changes. But so we don't have to guess who's going to have a double, because I think we should be able to know that. What we maybe need to do is guess when it's going to be. We think 26, 27 would be fine. From my point of view, if I end up having a team that is split across doubles in 26 and 27, well, that's about the same as 26 anyway. No problem.
So we should know ahead of Game Week 24 who is also doubling in Game Week 26. That would influence me in terms of when I use my wildcard, because I could use it in 24, for example, to plan.
I think if you've got it, I think that's... Yeah. I know, Karam, you were maybe thinking different, but for me, 2 free transfers for, just a shot in the wind in 23. You might try and get Kane because no one will have Kane and so on. And then I wildcard in 24, set a team up that obviously is massively biased towards 26, but maybe gives me 3 leads, and obviously I'll have 3 cities, something like that.
Yeah.
Couple of transfers to shift it around, 29 saved by the free hit. What about you, Karam?
I think it's a possibility. I think also in my case, for example, I still have all the chips but the first wild card, so I managed the first set of doubles without using any chip, and so I'm in a good position to decide what I want. Basically, I was keen to go to Game Week 26 without using the second wild card, because I feel that the big teams will double in that game week, and we are already sort of load up on them, stock up on them. So probably if you give some prediction to those FA Cup ties, you might see that, I might have between 7 to 10 players already are going to double in 26. So there was a temptation to actually use the free transfers and save the wild card later on, probably to wildcard them out afterwards, because once I'm trying to load up on those, I'll be building up for the bench boost, and then because I have a strong bench, then I might need to take out the cash from the bench, and that's why maybe a later wild card actually could be useful. It could be after the 26, it could be after the 29. It really depends how 29 will exactly look like.
So for example,
But I have an impression, just want to make a point about, like, I had an impression that this double game week 25 for Leeds and Southampton comes really handy with the managers who wildcarded in 16 and free hit in 18, because mostly they were stuck up on Leeds and Southampton to their bench boost in game week 20 in game week 19, and I'm not sure if they managed to set them out all just yet. So I think it will come handy because their new arrangement is not really far away from now, so it could be good. I think there's an incentive for both strategies to maybe save the wild card and use it later on. But of course, you need to look at how far you are from the key players in 24 and 25. To me, I have 3 cities, maybe not the 3 I want anymore, but I have DCL as well. So maybe I need one more from Burnley, and that's about it. For 25, many of us have Southampton cover or Leeds. So does it change a lot from the strategy? Probably not, but of course everybody has his own situation. But yeah, I think it did not make it that tougher, if that makes sense.
I just wanted to, with these FA Cup games here. So for example, Chelsea against Barnsley, you would assume Chelsea would win. So that would mean that, so basically the teams that win these are likely to double in 26 and blank in 29. Is that the score?
Yeah.
But so, for example, with Chelsea, that might actually not be good because they're playing if they double, then they would likely have Manchester United, Liverpool, which is an awful double. Whereas, so for example, Everton against Tottenham, if Everton get through that, their likely double would be something like maybe Southampton Villa or Southampton West Brom, mate. I don't know. I mean, it would be more favourable. Just gives people an idea what to watch out for in the FA Cup, because I quite like as an FPL manager.
Did you ask about Everton, Joe?
Yeah, I was asking about Everton. Yeah.
Yeah, they have Southampton in 26.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
If they beat, is it Spurs that they are playing in the cup? Then they will probably get West Brom in 29 from 29. Okay. That's what it looks like. Yeah.
The Tottenham Everton one is the interesting one because that's probably closer than a few of the other ties there. And depending on what happens there, you get a little bit of a swing, obviously either way for one of those teams.
Yeah. Also, the Man United West Ham tie, also one of the most interesting ones.
Watching the FA Cup as an FPL manager, it's quite interesting when you get to these bits, and you sort of, as a neutral, you can go, "Come on, Everton," or "Come on, Spurs," or whatever, because if they do, then they get a double, and if you're stocked up on them. So, for example, I don't have any Southampton at the moment, but I have Lewin for Everton. So Everton, I'm quite keen on to get as many double game weeks as possible, and so on.
I would say the other thing that the FA Cup matches probably affect, if you, like me, have a wild card and intend to use it in 24, I can just relax and see what happens. If you don't have a wild card or don't intend to use it, you either have to guess ahead of time if you're going to start planning now. A lot of people have 2 free transfers this week. You maybe want to use one of those for someone who's going to have a double. So if you don't have 3 City, but we all do, maybe you're going to have to start looking at percentages and thinking, okay, do I think X are going to beat Y? So who should I start planning for?
That's a great point, because there are people who have used their wildcard already, and so they're going to want to know how they navigate. And we're quite simple. Let's put those fixtures back up again. These are the teams we know about. Start having a look. If you've already used your wildcard or you don't plan to use it, get as many City as you can. Perhaps look at Everton. Look at the Burnley defence. Look at Fulham. Have they got options? There's Leeds and Southampton to consider, and then we can look at Game Week 26. Probably a fitting time, Karam, we can sort of move the conversation on to have a look at the players involved. But before we do that, I want to put up this tweet that you put up on February the 1st. So this is the announcement that's just been confirmed. So we sort of had an inkling because you put up there, and you did this through your detective work. Now you've analysed the players in training, the shirts, the hats they've been wearing, whatever. I say hats. footballers don't really wear hats. Imagine the top hats.
The silver hair.
Silver hair, the hair dye, the socks.
Yeah.
And you've been using your detective work. So tell us just briefly about what your detective work to alert us to this in Double Game Week 24 for Everton and Man City.
Well, I mean, detective work is what I do for a living as a fraud analyst. So I do that 40 hours a week, making sure having my eye on the very specific details. And for some reason, it became like normal part of what I do. So this image is from a tweet came out from the Man City official Arabic page, where they were tweeting, okay, this is the fixtures for February. Which game are you excited about? Apparently, they did not think that they have FPL managers following their page.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, this is the list of the fixtures, but what is that about? And it says in Arabic, potentially playing a postponed game, and in brackets, it's not confirmed yet.
Yes.
Like, this has to do with a double game week result. So I rushed and I copied this and retweeted it. And when I did, I was just like, okay, I claimed, like, not intentionally in the tweet that it is confirmed double game week 24, but thankfully they did before the SCOUTCAST, so that's good now. But when I say it's very likely it's Everton, I did not really have another look, because when I zoomed in, I was like, what is behind the text?
Yeah.
And it was the Everton flag just put there and faded, like really.
So those looking at that image can see there's some writing in Arabic across some faint images of badges, and you've had a close look at those badges and you discovered it was Everton's badge.
Yeah, exactly. And I was like, is it Everton really? But I looked at the rest of the details with the text. It says, okay, put this on par. So where is this game? The date is the 17th. I think it's the only day that can be played or whatever. And then, okay, guys, it's Everton is the one. And I had a brief chat with Ben Crillan as well through the post. It's like, why isn't Southampton? I was like, okay, well, it's printed there. Yeah. So that's how I found out. But it's confirmed now. So
that's great. Good detective work.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
What players should we be targeting?
Well,
got some questions, I think, haven't we?
That's what we are going to discuss now, and of course that also these questions are also from the community. Given City have a multiple double game weeks now, a triple up looks very vital for sure. Some of us have already tripled up on them, whether in defense or attack, but now we might discuss again or revisit which triple is the best, attack or defense. Lord is asking, is it time for a double vision? Who to target across the teams involved? Last 4 game weeks. Is that an account?
No, that's me saying this picture that I'm about to put up is of the last 4 game weeks.
Like, okay, wow. Yeah, so one of those questions is about that, and we can address which City assets do you have now, and what changes have that made for you?
After consulting our post the last 4 game weeks, here are the stats for the last 4 game weeks for Manchester City. So that should help for talk about City. I mean, I've got Gundogan myself. I have Ederson because I'm boring, and I have John Stones because I got him after Christmas for some reason. And I think if I was in an ideal world, I would possibly still have Ederson for a bench boost. And I would probably have Diaz, because he's marginally more nailed on, I would think. And Gundogan, I still think, is the one to get. And this is, I mean, obviously, but then there is De Bruyne, there is Sterling. But it's just the price and the points outlay. So I think I'm just going to probably I've got Stones at the moment. Stones to Diaz is the only. I think I might keep the others. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Now I've had a look at the schedule for Man City in February until mid-March, and after playing yesterday against Burnley, they are going to play 9 games every three days between each game until mid of March, which is hilarious, including including the Champions League games, and of course there is a chance to rest some players in the cup. But still, the schedule is very intense, and the fixtures you would think like Liverpool, Spurs, West Ham, Everton, they are not easy in general. So I'm on triple defense, and I'm actually considering moving away from at least one of them. Laporte is back, and he got a game. And 2 starts actually, one of them as a center back and one of them as a left back. And to me, I thought he did very well. Stones is the one that might actually miss out on the odd games because of, I think Pep wants to make sure he's fit. He doesn't do his hammy after a series of injuries in the last few seasons. Although he's doing brilliantly, and it's really hard to drop him, but I think for the sake of giving him a breathe and a rest and making sure he stays fit, I think Laporte might get some games from him. Cancelo and Walker is also a tricky one. I know Walker is Cancelo is really creative, and there were some highlights where he's been so attacking. For some reason, I was not the most impressed about his performance yesterday. But he had a couple of attempts, so from a fantasy perspective, he could have had or chipped something. But I think that Cancelo could be even more at risk now, not just because of the performance, but because of giving enough minutes to Walker and Zinchenko, because all of them are fit now, and so Pep has the luxury situation to use all the players. So nothing would surprise me anymore if Cancelo gets a brace and then gets a bench the game after. So to me, I think Diaz is nil undroppable. I think there was a stat, I can't have it, I don't see it now, but Diaz rarely gets a rest unless he's suspended.
We had it last week. The last time out, we had the minutes, and Diaz was the one.
So naturally, he's a very fit and he's a leader, and Pep has talked about how he actually is aggressive and gives a lot to the defense. So I think he is the one, if anyone. In terms of attack, I still think Gundogan, because he is now on penalties. I'm not sure when KDB comes back, would he take it or leave it with Gundo? But still, at 5'9", he's still really cheap. Gets a lot to the box, 13 goal attempts, the most by any City players in the last 4 game weeks. However, I started to like someone else. He's not performing as 11.6 million just yet, but if I want to move away from a defense and I want to stay in attack, then I think I will take a risk on Sterling. I think the last 4 games he had 11 attempts, second to Gundogan, and that's marginally better than the 4 before that. He's expected to be involved in 2.31, the most of any City asset in the last 4 game weeks. And 5 chance created is an okay number, but Gundogan is far better than him with 13. So maybe Sterling, for me, as someone is struggling now with the rank, fixtures are there for the taking, for scoring goals. I think Sterling is worth a shout. If you have him, I think he's an easy hold. But if I don't, I would still consider him. Now, I know people might get, Gundogan is a crazy value, which I agree. But if you need that element of taking a risk, and we know Sterling, he's capable of braces and he looked good against Burnley. So things stand by him, especially if you are not so keen anymore on the double defense or even triple defense. I think Sterling is a good move.
Yeah. The only thing on Gundogan is, and don't get me wrong, like, he's great, have him. He's created, what have we got here, 9 chances in the last 3, but only had 3 shots. 2 of those were goals. In the last match, he had an XG of 0.03. It was Burnley. We know they're going to sell. We've seen how Gundogan's scoring those goals. It also matches this heat map of not having almost any touches in the penalty area in the last match because those runs maybe weren't there for him. He's replacing with assists, which is all good. But just keep an eye on if things are shifting or how City are playing against maybe a deep defence, whether Gundogan is the goal scorer. So for me, that would just be the difference between do I captain him or not versus whether I have him or not.
Yeah, Gundogan, I think, is nailed for me as
he's undroppable. Nobody in the team can play his role.
Asset. For me, Edison And I think anyone else who wants a definite City defender that you know is going to start, Ederson. And I think I'm going to stick with what I've got. But going into game 26, I'm thinking of keeping Ederson, and then moving for Diaz as well for that double up. So if I can get double clean sheets, great. But Ederson is that, because what was that week? It was Cancelo and Stones didn't play. And there were quite a few with that double up of Stones and Cancelo. So therefore you miss out. You think you're going to get at least 12 points and you end up with none, or whoever your bench players get. And but I've always been quite relaxed about City's defence having Ederson, and I'll be gobsmacked if he gets a rest. Pep's not. It's only really Everton that do the rotation of goalkeeper things. But Sterling is interesting, isn't it? Sterling's a game changer, isn't he? Because you could get him in and he could miss a game, and then, or you could get him in and he could get to a brace in each of the games.
Worth noting that City have Borussia Mönchengladbach on the 24th of February in the midweek. So, I mean, realistically, we know almost every City player can be rotated, and we sometimes don't even care. Does that maybe up the chances a little bit that someone key could miss out?
If I don't give him the captaincy and he doesn't come on for a point, then I will take it, because I would have another chance to actually get a vice captain points. But if he comes on for 1 point, that would be really annoying, and that's why I owned Sterling for some time this season, and last season I owned him in the right times, luckily. But I can't imagine many others have had him for some time, including myself. Really early last season, I really struggled. I think part of me doing really bad last season is because I owned the same for a really long time. But I think recently now, with the new way that City are playing, by putting more players in the box, by making players more involved, Sterling is doing okay. I think since game week 19, he's scored 3 goals and 1 assist in 5. Of course, it's not 11.6 million returns, but if you look at the people or the players around him, Kane out, Vardy out, Salah is blanking. So in perspective, he's not that worse. He's not doing the 11.6 what he should do for that premium asset, but he's comparable now. And with the fallout of the other premiums, I think why not?
When looking at these City stats, what draws me out is the expected goal involvement. So Gundogan expected involved in about 3, Sterling almost 3, Cancelo as a defender almost 1, Jesus nearly 2 goals. This is over 4 game weeks. So I'm just saying that, bearing that in mind, because I'm going to put the Everton stats up now, and then Karam, and you can take us through that. But one thing that people may notice is the expected goal involvement is, it's only really Calvert-Lewin who's worth anything to get in.
Yeah, indeed. So another team that's involved in the double game week is Everton. You can see the table here where it says, shots inside the box. Calvert-Lewin with 7, Richarlison with 5, and the rest is the 3s and 1s, including Rodriguez and Digne. To me, I feel like, okay, with Everton, I'm not too excited about the double game week, because one of the games is against City and the other one against a relatively improved Fulham. I know they've been conceding again recently, but it feels like the Calvert-Lewin is an enough cover. Maybe Digne, if anybody else. I don't know what you think of, Seb, in terms of Everton. Are you keen on anybody else?
I mean, similar to what you're saying, I think I almost prefer Dean over Calvert-Lewin, because if we go City, best team in the league by a mile, and their defence is really the thing, do we think Calvert-Lewin will score? Therefore, okay, it's 2 points, 1 point. Yeah, okay, Dean could get a -7. But if I'm looking at the Fulham game, maybe I prefer Luca Dean playing on the left wing to a Calvert-Lewin, just on the percentages. I think a bit like City, depends how they're playing. I just wanted to, if you don't mind, very quickly on City, and you were discussing Sterling.
Yeah.
Something that was interesting to watch the other night when we were looking at the match is it kind of depends on the chances City create for Sterling. You saw that classic City goal of the get to the byline, cut it low across the area. Oh, it's Raheem Sterling to tap it in. His off-the-ball movement is elite, like close to best in the world, I would venture. his actual finishing is average.
Yeah.
So if he's restricted to long shots or more difficult chances, maybe he scores fewer. If City are going to start to work out, like De Bruyne likes to, like Gundogan managed to, like Cancelo seems to be able to, how to get those cutbacks across, or maybe you look at who they're playing and how they defend, someone like Sterling maybe becomes more of an option.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good insight there, because definitely, I mean, I've so many times over the last few years I've got City assets in double game weeks, and usually they disappoint, and usually it's because I haven't quite read the fixture or they're just not showing up. What I like about Everton in Calvert-Lewin is that he's reliable, he's going to show up, and he's clearly their main goal threat. He got points this week, and it wasn't an especially amazing Everton performance the last time out, but there were points there, and I think that he can nick a goal against Man City. But yeah, Luca Dean would be the only other one. I wouldn't expect a tremendous amount against Man City, but what's the other fixture? The other fixture is Fulham, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I'd be tempted by a bit in the chat actually talking about Burnley defence, and I think I'd be tempted in this double game week, considering Burnley have Palace away and Fulham at home. I'd be very tempted to have at least one Burnley defender. I'm probably not going to get Pope because I've got Edison, but was it you, Seb, or was it Josh last time out was talking about Ben Mee? Someone was urging me.
That wasn't me, so it would have been
Josh. I was talking about boring moves and how I was considering actually Edison to Pope, which I'm not now.
Let me talk about me.
And he said, how about getting Ben Mee in? And I said, I'm not sure I'm that boring, but I think I am that boring, and I think Ben Mee would be great to get in.
Ben Mee's slightly more adventurous than Pope, surely. I think everyone will have Pope.
And I think something like Ben Mee and Tarkowski could be great. I think getting those two in.
Spoiler, guys. Later.
Later. But I do think getting those nailed on Burnley points at both ends of the pitch defenders in during a double game week, a favourable one as well. I think that's the way I might be going. My other alternative might be Fulham attacker, but I'm not sure of a place for one at the moment. Shall I put these other? I'm going to put these other stats up I've got on. So I put
Cavaliero's stats, all right.
Well, this is what these stats show. Now these stats are all matches. So I just went to town on this one. I picked out as many players as I could near the top from the 6 teams that are doubling in game weeks 24 and 25, and I sorted it by big chances. So I'm pretty sure I've got them all. Up until, so I think I drew the line at about 3 or 4 big chances. So if they got less than that, I didn't want to know. But this showed that Bamford is an absolute must for double game week 25. 19 big chances, expected to be involved in 13 goals. I mean, Seb, you're a Leeds fan, so you're going to know exactly what Bamford's about. Game week 25, Seb, would you be looking at captaining him? In and captaining.
I hadn't thought about that, but maybe I really like Rafinha as a look for Leeds. Yes. But I think you're right. You probably want, I think with the wildcard, I might have 3 leads and then move out of those 3 leads quite quickly to set up for the rest. But
Wolverhampton and Southampton.
That's not a bad shout. It's hard to avoid, right?
Wolverhampton away, Southampton at home, game week 25 double. Looking at these fixtures, this is the most out of any of those players. It's more than any City player in terms of big chances.
Yeah. And Everton did a good job on us in the first half, and then I'd say we probably should have. We didn't not deserve to lose or deserve to lose. Fair enough, but we probably should have done better in the second half. We certainly looked better. Yeah. I would put those concerns of us looking poor for a couple of weeks behind us, to be honest.
Just looking at these chances. So for the benefit of those listening on the podcast, as I said, I've focused on big chances for the players involved, and this is the list and I'll go as far as I can before I run out of breath. This is moving down. So top, Bamford 19 big chances, Calvert-Lewin 19 as well, and then you move down to Chris Wood. Now he's in there, but with a caveat, because if you look at whether they're getting converted, how many shots on target he's only having 18 over the whole season compared to say 31 for Bamford. And then you're moving down to Sterling, as Karam was talking about. Che Adams, perhaps not to be overlooked. De Bruyne, if he's fit, 11 big chances, expected goal involvement, more than 12 goals. And then you start getting to Cavallero. Cavallero, 5.3, Fulham with a favourable double game week. If I have a slot in my team, I would probably look at Cavallero, because if I'm wildcarding after that, I'm not going to want a Fulham attacker long term, but certainly for a double game week. Ings creeping in there. Gundogan over the season, and bear in mind it's only really in recent weeks where we've really seen what Gundogan's about. And then you've got the likes of Mitrovic, Lookman, Harrison, another option at Leeds, Richarlison, and these are sort of the players that perhaps have been in and out of the side. But Rafinha has come into the game much more recently, and Dallas. So I've got Dallas still. I'm keeping Dallas. Happy to have him for the double game week, and it just shows. I mean, we're looking at the players there. There's a lot of Leeds attack. There's a hell of a lot of Leeds attack. So I'll be looking at Bamford, Calvert-Lewin, possibly an Ings if he's fit. Cavallero would be on my mind, and then elsewhere for me, defenders as well. So I don't know about either of you when you're looking at these sort of other teams as well. Unfashionable picks perhaps.
Yeah, I just to note something on Cavallero. It might worth monitoring this, but he did not start the last 2 games, and therefore, just for the sake of guarantee, a player from Fulham, I think Lookman, who is at 5.0, might be a safe option. He's also involved in a stats, so that's yes. Good. I thought an hour ago when I saw the fixture change, it's like the front 3 has to be Bamford, DCL, and Ames. I had a long experience with Adams. I'm not going anywhere, even if he's 5 million. I think Ames is the one I would get, but still we have Antonio in our teams, and he is probably one of the best strikers we do have now. So it will come at a big cost, but I think it's worth taking for Ames. Richarlison is not intriguing me, to be honest. I don't know. The Leeds guys, Rafinha, he's so good. He's a very good one.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, at his price, he's also a bargain. So we are fortunate this time of the season to have a lot of 5.5 sub players like Saka, Soucek, Rafinha. Those players you just need to pick. Just pick one of them and stick with them. So I think those names stand out for me. Of course, Gundogan is still in the mix for me. Sterling is the premium one from the list. He is someone I'm looking at him myself. Chris Wood.
No,
I don't know. No. He would stay in the cage for me.
Have you still got him in your cage?
Yeah. He's here.
There he is.
He's still here from the Hollywood time. So how about yourself, Seb?
So I just looking at it. Here's one for you. It's sort of an outside shot because it relies on Brighton beating Leicester. But Brighton could have Burnley 23, Aston Villa 24, Crystal Palace 25. Both of those are at home. And then a double of West Brom and Newcastle in 26. Now, like I say, I think they'd have to beat Leicester, if I've got that right, relying on the knowledgeable Twitter here. But if they did, that's a pretty decent run of fixtures and a double for the second best defence over.
Yeah, just beating Spurs, just beating Liverpool. Leicester's
and the second best defence over the last 4. So
it's not unusual. But
Dan Burn playing left wing back.
My only caveat with that is in the Cup, Potter tends, he rotates a lot, but you will see a lot of players where you'll go, who? Huh? So it's a sort of Percy Tau kind of event, and you'll see a lot. You'll see some players, but you never know because we'd never heard of Sanchez in goal until a few weeks ago, and suddenly he's the best goalkeeper at the club that has kept 4 clean sheets, including against Spurs and Liverpool.
Speak for yourself. I've been mentioning him for months.
You've been mentioning him for months. Well, we've all heard of. Yeah, that's actually.
Speaking of Brighton,
3 goals. Yeah.
Did you see the? Again, this was on Twitter. It's not my work. Something I put in our conversation earlier, Joe. Where I don't think I'll have it, so try and describe it visually. But speaking of Potter, how over his time with you, if we were to visualize this, we've got expected against and expected for goals. And there's a red line, which is against, and it is above the blue line, which is goals for. pretty much entirely for the first couple of seasons. And then they make a nice little switcheroo. There's a horrible point at the end of last, beginning of this, but they switch and then they don't come back. And they are now looking a lot better. It's the first time that consistently they've expected to score more goals than they would concede. Ooh. And not only that, in the last few, they are diverging even further from each other. So if there was a sign of someone who is maybe getting the players he wants, getting the tactics he wants, getting the buy-in he wants, and also pulling it off on the pitch, I would say Brighton and Potter, maybe if they don't get that double, it's one just to keep in our mind for the future, but they look to be improving.
It's a funny story, but maybe Joe has a screen for that. Brighton's defense is as solid as Man City, more or less.
Well, let's get it up. Yeah. Look, this is
4 clean sheets in 4.
Big chances conceded. Last 4, 4 clean sheets for Brighton, 4 clean sheets for City. Best defense. Man City has conceded 1 big chance over the last 4. Brighton have conceded 2. Bearing in mind, Southampton have conceded 16.
That's a bit of dunk here.
A bit of dunk. Sanchez, all the gang. Burn, Webster, all the boys, and of course Ben White.
4-5 and lower, just get in,
There's probably, before we move on to, I just want to talk about sort of recalibrating what we're thinking about defences and captaincy. Before we move on, because it's so big, the double game weeks, was there anything else either of you wanted to say about any particular players to target? Otherwise, we'll just move on.
I mean, I'm sure we could talk about it for another 2 hours, but I probably want a little bit of time for my thoughts to settle a little. I'm sure there's other people who have some pretty solid ideas over the next few days.
Okay, so next Scoutcast we'll have a bit more on that. But yeah, the looking at the big chances conceded, so-called whipping boys table we've got up on screen here. This shows that over the last 4 matches, Southampton's stats have been slightly skewed by the fact they just got beaten 9-0 by Manchester United. But nevertheless, they were pretty poor before that, and that's because they're racked with injuries. Their centre backs, Romeo's out. It's not looking good. But looking at those stats, so what it is, I had a look over bit further. So, for example, with Southampton, I looked further back, and they were still in the bottom 6 in terms of big chances conceded. The reason I mention this is because more than 2.2 million managers captained Mo Salah game week 22 against Brighton. He blanked, of course, and then looking at these stats, we know it shouldn't really be a surprise. Yet 2.2 million captained him. I think we all did as well. And I look at it now and I think, I really shouldn't have done that. And perhaps as the captaincy goes, I should have looked at that and thought, well, hang on a minute, the Brighton defence is good. There were worse defences. Southampton's defence was actually in the bottom 6. Fernandes would have been a better shout. Is that hindsight? Is that looking at that? So I look back and say, for example, when City played Sheffield United, I ended up by default having Gundogan as my captain, but he was my vice captain. But I didn't captain him because I didn't fancy a City asset to haul against Sheffield United. I preferred elsewhere. Happened to have injuries that time. But I just wonder whether we should be sort of refocusing who we're captaining and when, and pay more attention to certain matchups, certain deficiencies in particular defences. So one of the things I looked at, so this is an example of something I looked at, and this is, now scoring a header is quite tricky. It's harder to score with your head than your foot, but nevertheless, this is just, I'm using this as an example really. So I've got some stats up on the screen here, and what we're looking at is in Southampton, in Palace and Fulham. If we look a bit deeper into these sort of stats, defensive stats, over the last 4, Palace have conceded the most headed goal attempts, and Fulham have conceded the second most headed goal attempts. They've conceded 14, and Fulham have conceded 11. So why is that interesting? Because it could affect who we're going to captain as well. The figures I've got here are looking at, this is for all season in terms of headed goal attempts and headed goal attempts on target. Who is top? It's Bamford. Who is also in the top 4? Soucek. And then you look at the fixtures. Who is playing Palace next? Leeds, Bamford. So looking at this, I'm thinking, why am I bothering thinking about, say, Son or Fernandes and these heavy hitters? Why am I looking at this and thinking, Palace can't can't keep out headed goal attempts. Bamford is the headed goal guy. Why aren't I using that? For example, why would I even consider benching Souček? Why shouldn't I captain Souček? He has had 8 headed goal attempts on target. He's the 4th in terms of headed goal attempts of any player this season, and yet and looking down who he's playing, so Souček is playing playing Fulham, who are conceding that. I use that as an example, and I quite like these matchups. But it is the caveat is it's harder to score with your head than your foot. But I don't know if it brings any thoughts for you two about how you're perhaps rethinking the captaincy, perhaps looking at defence more.
I think you said it there, just at the end, where it's hard to score a header. This is some really nice work, to be fair. I guess it's one of those, you only look at this at your second stage of investigation. You know, if Salah, maybe a bad example, is playing West Brom at home, maybe you don't go this deep. But if you're looking for an alternative, this is probably more useful than looking at ownership, right? This is some solid stuff. You know, let's not worry about what other people are doing. If I can identify the best captain, let them come to me. So yeah, I really like this. And maybe I'm not captaining Souček. I don't know him at the moment. But like you said about the benching, Bamford's an interesting one. I have a mixed relationship with FPL and Leeds, as we know. But I wonder if it's one of those, Bamford's going to be 8.5 million or 8 million or something next year. Do you suddenly feel a lot better about captaining him because he's 8 million? If Gundogan was 11 million, do you captain him?
Karam, what do you think about that? About the whole notion of price and captaining players?
I definitely somehow in the back of my mind think about the price when I captain somebody, because I thought, like, why do I have to own that 11 million or 12 million player if I don't captain him? And I think we are discussing this now, and this SCOUTCAST might go to history if people captain Souček and he scores next game. But the reason we are initially talk about this is because we are struggling with the failure of the premiums. We had a lot of nice matchups in the last few weeks with Fernandes against Sheffield, with Fulham, and they either blanked or just an assist or a very minimum return. KDB in the double game week, the best game week you might get this season. He got an assist and an injury. So there is some sort of a frustration from the returns coming back from the captaincy, and that's why we are currently looking at those captaincy options. Specifically talking about Souček, I'll be happy to play him every week and score 38 goals, but I wouldn't probably be that brave to captain him just because of his positioning. Yeah, I know he is going a lot for the headers also, but I cannot afford to see him one game, especially if I want to watch him because he's my captain. I don't want to afford to watch him playing as a pure CDM in that particular game for a tactical reason. Maybe Antonio is somebody that he is good. He can score headers. Maybe he'll be more intriguing.
He's got more breadth to him in attacking threats.
Is that something you take into account, Karam? You said you didn't want to watch him play because he might be deep or what have you. You know the old don't captain the first player on a Saturday morning or whatever, which is maybe not based in logic. But it's an emotional thing, and if it's going to ruin your weekend, unless you're going to win FPL, probably don't ruin your weekend.
Yeah, I think with the captaincy, it has something to do with it. I know. For example, a lot of managers don't like to own Callum Wilson because he plays for Newcastle. But the first 10 game weeks, I owned him in that period, and he was a goal guy. I didn't have to watch him. I know the points are coming. So when it comes to FPL points, the likes of Callum Wilson, you don't really need to watch Newcastle for him to get points. But I wouldn't still be like very brave to captain him. I'd like to watch someone I captain. But coming back to the original point, which is about the captaining other players, I think we are in the stage where you can decide to play a bit safe or you start to take some risks. If you are around the 1 million mark, maybe you would start thinking about some of those decisions. But if you are in the top 100k or so, there are some still decent options. I know that Son, for example, has a very nice game next game week, although Spurs are 1-0 down and doesn't look like that they have touched the ball in the first half. But they are still playing West Brom. Effective ownership comes into the equation as well, because when it's like 130% and he scores, you would imagine, then it would be really bad. But for example, next game week, Danny Ings against Newcastle, a reaction after each big defeat versus Newcastle, who looked really bad. He might be on paper really a decent captain option, but would you be psychologically ready to captain him and wait for I don't know, another bad game from Southampton or a good reaction? It could go either way really. So yeah,
I think I need
I'm
more
keen.
Southampton players back. I need more first teamers back at Southampton, especially because Newcastle now Newcastle got a new assistant manager, a new they've certainly got you know, a new side to their management structure where they look pretty good in the last couple of matches, Newcastle. And so I'm sort of recalibrating how I'm thinking about Newcastle in terms of big chances conceded as well. Last four, you know, they're on a par with West Ham, Everton. Just a little bit worse than Arsenal, and they're nowhere near the likes of Fulham and West Brom and Crystal Palace.
Let me throw a couple of things in there. So you mentioned ownership, effective ownership there, Karam.
Yeah.
I would say that, and this is just me, happy to be proven wrong. You know, I'm not one FPL. I'm currently ranked 300k or something. So hey, fair enough. Effective ownership doesn't bother me with the captain. The only time I will consider it is if I can't separate two players. Now, of course, you know, we're trying to predict points. Sometimes we can't separate players quite often. But if we knew who was going to score the most points every week, we'd just captain them. We don't know that. We're trying to predict it.
Yeah.
But I will not look at ownership if I think I know who's going to score the most in a week. If I think it's close, I might not even look at it. I'll probably start looking at something like Joe's headed goal attempts first. Ownership doesn't matter unless you're going to also score more points with it. It's a modifier that means you do more well or more badly, to put it in bad English, as opposed to changing how many points you're going to score.
Looking at the defences as well and how our attitudes to captaincy. So, for example, Fernandes would be a great option, I think, on paper, but he's playing Everton. Now, Everton are sort of in that mid-ground. They could concede, and they could concede heavily. I don't know, though. And that's the sort of middle ground. They haven't kept any clean sheets in their last four. But fairly, I mean, just seeing Brighton down there, it's quite... I feel stupid now, captaining Salah. I really do. Because the stats were there. The signs were there. And it isn't a case of hindsight. They really was there. So, for example, I wouldn't captain Salah against Man City. I certainly, and I'm benching, and we'll come to our teams, and I think you both are as well, benching Calvert-Lewin, because in terms of big chances conceded, Manchester United are pretty tidy at the moment. Whereas I'm looking at those other defences at the top, and Antonio and Bamford are definitely in my thoughts for the captaincy. Let's have a look at the fixtures. Next four. Looking at these, so what I've done is I've sorted these by difficulty using the Fantasy Football Scout ticker. This next four fixtures, and a bit later Karam's going to pick a differential. Fantasy Football Scout's partner with Football Index, so there may also be players that are looking at buying through there. Football Index, that's where you can buy and sell shares in players using fantasy football knowledge to make a profit. You can sign up to that today. They've got a 7-day £500 money back guarantee. Link in the description below to sign up, as well as a link to check out the full terms and conditions. Reminder, this is for 18 plus only, and please gamble responsibly. You can check out begambler.org, and there's a link for this in the description as well. So looking at these next four fixtures, this is pre-double game weeks. So we can shoehorn in all the fixtures we've been talking about earlier. This will be updated possibly while we've been on air. Definitely later tonight or tomorrow. I'm sure that will happen. But this shows that perhaps the single game week fixtures and those who have a double, that Palace have actually got quite a nice run. Except I do think they're a bit susceptible with Leeds. Burnley, Brighton and Fulham though. That could be some joy for Zaha owners. Brighton, as we mentioned there, Burnley, Villa, Crystal Palace and West Brom. That's a really nice bunch of fixtures. Burnley, we mentioned last time that Burnley have a nice little run now. Brighton, Crystal Palace, West Brom. I'm going to include Tottenham in that as well, unless Kane's back and firing. Fulham, good fixtures and the double. West Ham, and then they've got Sheffield United and Crystal Palace. We can add in those other fixtures as well that we've been mentioned. And right the way down, Man City got Liverpool, Tottenham, and then Arsenal, West Ham, United. I think in terms of their defence, I think in terms of them hauling, I don't think you're going to be seeing some 5-0s there, but I think you could be seeing some 1-0s, 0-0s. I think investment in the Man City defence looks good. Leicester have got they got Wolves next. I don't think it's too bad. Then Liverpool, and then Villa and Arsenal. So they're low down the ticker. Same with Liverpool. I know a few are thinking of moving Salah on to Son. Well, I'll be looking at Son tonight to see if that's possible. But at the moment, I might as well just keep Salah, because even though you've got City and Leicester next, it's Everton and Sheffield United. But I don't know. Looking at these fixtures here, any sort of thoughts?
I think for me, it's changed a lot by that wild card and double game week. So maybe this is really useful information for people who don't have the wild card or choose not to play it. Yeah, exactly. So we're talking about Salah there. For me, I might even get rid of him this week, just because if I have a team for one more week, he's playing Man City, it's best defence in the league. I'm not saying I will, but that's a good source of trying to get Kane if I'm trying to do something like that.
If there was a double game week player, midfielder, that I desperately wanted for game week 24, I might move early. But there isn't really, because it's Burnley, Fulham, Everton, and I'm already stocked up on Man City, and there's no midfielders from those other teams that I'm really overjoyed about. But then Leeds in game week 25 double, and you mentioned Rafinha. I don't have Rafinha, and then they play Palace, so I wonder if I might get Rafinha in for Salah. Is that a move? I don't even know.
Cash out the money and
I've already got 6.5 million in the bank. I don't know.
We don't need the premiums.
We've just talked about captaining non-premium. Something I guess to shout out there is, if you look at just top point scorers so far on FPL, let's look at the midfielders. There's a lot of money there. Fernandes, Salah, Son, then Grealish, Rashford, Souček doing bits, and then Sterling. So I think, and if you look at the forwards, it's Kane, Bamford's in there, Vardy. So there's maybe a bit more of a mix-up than most seasons, but you're still getting a lot of the big names up there. I think rather than completely disregarding premiums altogether, it more goes back to, can I target when they're going to do well, when they're not doing well? Maybe that's what we're seeing with Salah. Because clearly at some point over the season, Fernandes is scoring more points than everyone else. But what I want to do is get rid of him when he's not scoring those points.
Yeah, definitely.
But something about these names, like many of those, like Salah and Son, they have got like almost 90% of their points like almost 2 months ago. Son 5 game weeks without anything. Salah 7-8 game weeks, just the brace last week. So actually, if you look further down the list, you will not see, like, there are not many points between the budget midfielders and the expensive ones. So you see Grealish, Souček, Zaha, Maddison, Barnes, like within 10 points away from the Rashford, from the Sterling. So you will get much better value if you start to mix up and get these value. I'm saying value because we used to use the term value to fund the other premiums, but actually they are the value and they are the premiums at the same time, funny enough.
So value-wise doesn't matter now, does it? It's just who's going to score more points, and there's Souček and Grealish.
Yeah.
I wonder if, like, you mentioned Son is such a good example of, he scored, was it 4 goals and an assist in that 1 week? So a lot of his points are coming from there. I often wonder if FPL, if all you could do was set up a team in August, and then that was your team for the entire season, you could change nothing. I always wonder if I'd do a lot better, because predicting those long-term trends, Fernandes obviously going to score points, De Bruyne going to score points. It's when we get to that week-to-week churn that maybe, hey, the best managers really show themselves, because it's identifying that, for example, like you said, Son might score the most points over the course of a season, but on a week-to-week basis, can I do better pound for pound?
Did we try something, a tool like if you don't change your team since game week 1, like a month and a half ago, it was a trend on Twitter to use that tool. And I found myself like 25 points worse. All the efforts, all the energy, all the tinkering. And in my team, I had Virgil van Dijk, who is injured for ages. And I don't know who I had it up front, but it was pretty bad. And so, predicted these names, but I had Son, I had Callum Wilson, I had Fernandes, I had Salah. No, I didn't have Salah. I had Sterling from the beginning. So these names will still be high up there, but would you have that enough patience? Because the game is about the dynamic. You have to bring in players, you have to take out players. But the likes of Salah, he should be taken out 7 game weeks ago, but you will always have The feeling that it's Salah, it's Liverpool.
Well,
He has the category.
I
The
could have done
pedigree to do
when
it.
I had Mane. If Mane hadn't got injured, I would have moved perhaps Salah on that current form, and I've done that many times before. And I often find whichever one you have, they pretty much match each other, whether that's getting nothing or big hauls. But yeah, I think Salah is dispensable at the moment, especially looking at those fixtures, looking at the double game weeks to come. Liverpool are not needed, especially if you're going to wildcard a bit later. A lot of people in the chat are talking about Antonio or Soucek as a captaincy shout, so they clearly looked at those Fulham stats we put up as well. But with these premiums, these well-owned players underperforming, obviously the search for differentials hots up. We had lots to offer last week. And Josh did ever so well recommending Luke Shaw. Good timing, because we've been talking about Luke Shaw for a little while and his stats, and it was good timing where Luke Shaw could have potentially hauled big time if he wasn't taken off early. We've had Cancelo. I think that was your pick, Karam or Seb. I can't remember which.
I went Cancelo.
That was it.
I went Cancelo before.
We've had him twice, haven't we?
And Gundogan as well has been one of yours. Antonio was one of mine. Cash, one of yours. So we've had some good successes recently. So Karam's turn next. Who is the best low-owned 5% or under gem for the next 4 matches?
Okay, so at half an hour before the beginning of the SCOUTCAST, I had 2 names, and none of them is a striker, and none of them is a midfielder. Both are defenders. And then with the announcement, it was easy to pick that one. So for next 4 game weeks, which is to me it represents potentially 6 games for that player. They play. Let me get they play Brighton, which can scream a 0-0. Then they play Palace and West Brom. Palace and West Brom are second and the third worst in terms of shots conceded, headed goal attempts conceded, and that says Ben Mee. 4.9. Someone I'm looking at him myself to replace potentially John Stones because I want to free up that slot. Each season, Ben Mee is someone as like, I wish I own him, but we always get like, okay, Lowton or Peters or the other fullback, Charlie Tyler, who are much cheaper. But we know in Burnley, the fullbacks are useless in terms of attack returns. Ben Mee, he has always that 2 to 3 attacking returns. So if there's any time where Birmingham might score,
actually he's my top target.
Yeah,
I said earlier,
well,
he's bizarrely my top target.
I was saying that's a spoiler. You mentioned my pick during the scout, but that means he could be out.
As an Edison owner, I cannot look at those double game weeks for Burnley without a Burnley defender. Ben Mee. I think those with or targeting Pope, double up, get Pope and Mee.
And many of us have already Martinez, and they will not be keen to either have a second goalkeeper in Pope, that's too much money, or replace Martinez because he's too good. So the alternative is to actually have a defender. And I think just for because I think budget now doesn't matter much, looking at the number of injured premiums or the ones that are not delivering. And of course, many of us have already a good team value. They can afford someone more like Lowton at 4.4. I think Birmingham is worth a shout. So Burnley, Crystal Palace, Fulham, West Brom. Add to that the double game week in 24 with Fulham.
I'm on it. That's it. It's in my head at the moment. Burnley's my
player.
I
feel like I should hate it, but I don't. It makes so much sense.
Yeah.
I love it. So Josh hinted at Ben Mee. Karam's given the full Ben Mee treatment. He's made it official. It's Ben Mee time, and look at those fixtures; they look really good.
If you have Nick Bob, I don't think is doubling up on me is a bad idea at all. That's I think where the advantage can come from. I've troubled up on City defense the last 2 games just because I want to take some advantage, to gain some more. Of course, I was a trolled last game week, which is 2 of my 3 did not play, and although this game week the 3 have returned, I did not get, and I got a red arrow because Gundogan has returned and everybody else has returned. But I think there are still more opportunities, especially in Burnley defense. because I think given they have no strikers, they might try to get few nil-nils or 1-0s. So surely that tells there are some clean sheets on,
Good. Good.
on the
Yeah.
horizon.
Massive approval from me. I'm on that. Let's move on to our transfer and captaincy plans. So this is me. Not Ben Me. This is my team, rather. I've got a 3-5-2. I'm not going to bench Souček again. No way. After seeing him as 4th in the list of headed goal attempts and Palace as so poor.
You think he will score? Or it's just because...
I don't know. I just think
we are starting him, he will blank.
He could, so I don't want him on the bench. So I've got a 3-5-2. Ederson in goal. Justin, Kufau and Dallas. I've got Grealish. Currently in my bus team, Fernandes, but I think that may change. Salah, Gundogan, Souček, up front, Bamford, Antonio. On my bench, first sub, Calvert-Lewin. I didn't think I'd do that, but on paper, Souček looks a better shout for points than Calvert-Lewin against quite a tight Manchester United team. And I don't think Everton are fully at the races yet. I benched John Stones against Liverpool because Liverpool could score, but also I've got Ederson. I'm sort of hedging my bets a bit there. Maybe there'll be a clean sheet and I'll be pleased about it. And then I've got Mitchell who's out the side. So Mitchell, I've got lots of money in the bank. I'm not going to do anything. I think basically if Son was going mad tonight, hat-tricks, Spurs were looking amazing, then I would consider. West Brom concede a lot of big chances. We've had Ted on a number of times. He's shown us graphically that that Son has a lot and takes his big chances. He does not get a lot of small chances. West Brom concede a lot of big chances. So on paper that looks good, but Spurs are just not with it at the moment without Kane. I'm not sure that could be 1-0 Bergwijn or goal or Dyer or something horrible like that. I think given the doubles in 24, 25 and 26, I'm going to hold my transfer. I already have a strong bench, and then in 24 I might make 3 moves and really go to town on that double game week. I might make 2, just use those 2 free transfers. Ben Mee is definitely a target. Luca Dean is a target. Rafinha the following double game week is a target. They're my rough targets at the moment, and a Fulham player possibly. So that's me.
Would you bench Salah in favour of Calvert-Lewin?
Yeah, it is between Salah and Calvert-Lewin. The thing about Salah is that in the last, including cup matches, he has scored 2 braces in his last 4 matches. So if I think about the possibility of goals, it's Salah there. But he's nowhere near the reckoning for vice captain or captain.
In the last 4, his XGI is 2.9, which is behind Bruno and Gundogan on 3.83 and 2.94 respectively. So that's decent. It's more just, I guess, I'm not really recommending this. I'm wondering.
The City defence is really strong.
City, it's the best defence.
Well,
yeah.
He just failed to score against Brighton, who are the second best, and City are the best. So why is he going to score against them?
Arguably should have scored against Brighton, I guess, but he didn't.
No, but he didn't. Shoulda, woulda, coulda, and he couldn't. If, as I said, if Son had done really well, I would have moved Salah to Son, and I'm still in the market. And if a double game week of midfielder was there, but already I'm benching Calvert-Lewin and Stones, so I don't know. Yeah, maybe that'd be a bit weird.
I prefer the players you've got on the field. Even if you're like, benching a City defender, benching Calvert-Lewin looks weird. I prefer the players you have on the pitch, give or take.
I do, yeah. I don't know. I'm sure there'll be news coming out over the next day or so before, but hopefully I'll better do nothing. All about the captaincy mainly. Antonio, Bamford, Fernandes, probably my big shouts. Karam, let's have a look at your team. You got Martinez, Cancelo, Diaz, Kufau, then Salah, Son, who's your vice captain. No, Son against West Brom, vice captain. That says it. Says a lot. Souček, Fernandes captain, Barnes, Antonio, Bamford, and on your bench you've also got Calvert-Lewin. John Stones, you've already got double City defence, so you'll be happy.
Yeah, it might be triple. Let's see.
Could be, and then you got Holding.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Forster. Any changes to this?
Well, I've got 2 free transfers, and I'm determined not to use more than one, just because I have an 11 player to carry me on this game week, and I really need to use 2 transfers within the doubles. Also, by next week, we'll know more about the future double game week, so that will be a great advantage to have. Probably I posted yesterday on Twitter. I slipped on Salah first sub, and there was a note in the chat says, "Oh my days, what's this guy Ryan benching Salah?" I mean, somebody who has a blanked in 7 and 8 game weeks deserves to be benched, right? I mean, if Salah was not 12.7 million, and that's the main discussion we had today, is how we make choices based on the prices. Somehow, somebody who has not scored in 7 of the last 8 matches against the very best defense in the league by a country mile, I don't see him scoring. But
don't get me wrong. I'm not benching Salah. I'm not saying bench Salah.
Yeah.
But it's interesting to think about.
Yeah. I mean, I might still bench one of them, or if I do Stones to Ben me, I have to start him, and it might come at the cross of Diaz. So it's a lot of some contradictory. But I think this game will not be a goal fest, because both teams don't want to lose, especially Liverpool, because losing the game might take them effectively out of the title race. So I can't see it out a 0-0 game. City don't want to go really far for the game. They will be happy with a draw. So I think from a tactical standpoint, I can see a very tight game. With the current form that we have at the back, it gives an extra incentive to say, well, I fancy a clean sheet, even at Anfield. Why not? The rest will be Fernandes for now is a captain. Depends on what Son does. It doesn't seem he's gonna do anything, so that's not encouraging. And sometimes, although the Fernandes blanked a few game weeks, sometimes the premiums come back and show their worth. And that's what happened with the last game week with Fernandes, at least. I know there are some extreme circumstances that helped him out to get those 17 points. But he has a good record in the first reverse fixture against Everton. And I'm not ruling out, if Pickford comes back, that Fernandes will have some joy there. Other than that, it might be Antonio as well. He's a candidate.
Yeah, definitely. Let's move on. Seb, you have Sanchez. Hooray! Finally gets the nod in goal. In a 3-5-2, you've got Dyer, who I believe gave away a penalty to Chelsea tonight. Cancelo and Stones. Son, captain. So you've gone for the premium effective ownership strategy for that one. Fernandes,
we'll see about
Salah, Gundogan, Saka. And then you've got Watkins, Antonio, your vice captain. Then on your bench, Martinez, Calvert-Lewin, Robertson, and Kilman. So there could be some bench points there. But we've been talking about today is why perhaps people should be looking elsewhere from captaining a player like Son. Are you going to stick with that, or are you tempted by someone like Antonio?
I think I will captain Antonio, but there's a little bit of time to go. Let's see. I'd like to have a little look into it.
Here you go.
But yeah, I mean, if someone like Son with his big chance and everything is playing West Brom, it feels good. But if they don't have Kane, I don't know about those big chances. Also, those big chances, a little bit of context, are often him breaking a high line, right? I'm sure plenty of them aren't that.
Yeah.
But it feels like a lot are.
Yeah.
That's probably the one thing West Brom aren't going to give them. So, and Antonio is probably outperforming him recently.
Yeah.
Is playing a Fulham side. Yes, they've improved, but are capable of conceding. West Ham looked awesome the other night. Antonio, at some point, is going to score for.
Yeah, he's going to do a Norwich basis.
He's putting in really good numbers and great performances. I feel like I might stick it on him.
Hopefully, he does it before he does his hammy.
I'm tempted. Antonio, tomorrow it's going to be like a Bamford's and then Antonio and Fernandes.
You have the luxury to think about the budget picks as captains this game week, so go for it. Why not?
Yeah.
So the other thing to mention in this squad as well is obviously I mentioned I'm probably going to wildcard in 24. I have 2 free transfers. I need to use them. I say I need to. anyone who forces themselves into using them because they're going to wildcard, or worse, chooses not to wildcard because they've got 2 free transfers, those decisions aren't connected. Make the best decision you can for your team. If you burn a transfer, no worries. For me, I'm probably going to use 2 of them to get the best team I can this week and then wildcard. So you're seeing Robertson benched. I obviously mentioned Salah earlier. I've got 2 City defenders in there. There's a good chance I'm losing 2 players there that are currently starting. I'm tempted. I know I've said I might not captain Son. I'm tempted to drop Salah, bring Kane in if he's fit. Son and Kane is probably something other people don't have just for that one-shot hit. But what I probably will do at the end is go after Leeds versus Palace. Bamford and Rafinha getting in there somewhere.
Yeah.
And again,
definitely.
that could be for Salah, but then I could wildcard him straight back in.
So
I'm just trying to get the best team for 23 I can.
So I've just used the Rate My Team computer from Fantasy Football Scout. Imagine this is this giant room like in the 1950s or 1960s James Bond film. Massive room of computers all whirring away. This still favours the premium picks like Son and Fernandes and Salah, but down the list there, the top sort of credible option is Bamford. Who's anticipated to get at least 5, maybe 6 points at least there. So if it's got that figure, if you're captaining him, it could be a double-digit haul. Bamford looking good there, and also Sterling, Ings is in the mix, and then Rafinha. So 1, 2, 3. I think he's in the top 10. Rafinha. So if you're thinking of getting in Bamford and Rafinha, this is why I'm actually bizarrely, if I did make a move, it would be Salah to Rafinha. Because Rafinha has got a great fixture and I want him for Game Week 25. I know I definitely want him Game Week 25. So, yeah, good moves. Good moves. We've really gone to town on the members area today. Lots and lots of look at the season ticket. All of that's going to be updated. All of the Rate My Team and everything's going to be updated. And we've also had a look at all the stats as well. Lots of good stuff there, looking at clean sheets, expected goal involvement and things like that. So do have a look at these members benefits there. Lots on the website to have a look in. But in the meantime, good luck both of you with your game weeks and what we do about these double game weeks. But in the meantime, it's goodbye from me.
That's a goodbye from me, and thank you for the good luck. Same to you.
Good night, everybody. Good luck.
Goodbye all.